sang this song to me. There was a message in its melody, sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be.
Thank you for tuning into us tonight. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, known as the Empowerment Doctor. And as usual, I am your host for today's podcast, A Marketing Expert Strategy for Success with Branden Cobb. So, I require you guys to have pen and paper ready because you never know what you're going to learn and how it will help you in your own endeavors. So that way you don't miss anything. So, if you want more information about me, you can go to champagneconnection.com. There you'll see the previous podcast as well as some other information that you may find valuable, along with tips that you can use to change your life and some merchandise. So once you do that, I want you to let me know how you enjoyed the website and if there's anything else that you'd like to see out there. Now, with that being said, I'm going to introduce Branden a little bit, and then I'm going to let him finish because this is going to be a really interesting conversation because everybody talks about marketing and everybody needs marketing in their life, even if you don't really know it. It's like we're always marketing something. So Branden is a 15-year marketing executive at the forefront of industry evolution. In a time of heightened ROI importance, AI content generation, and responsible marketing, Branden stands out for merging innovation with market insights. So thank you, Branden, for being here with us tonight and helping us through this marketing maze.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, and very nice intro, very nice video when you came in and saying, living the life you dreamed of and stuff. And I always kind of dreamed about, making a positive, using business to make a positive impact on the world. And I do that through marketing by helping companies who I believe are offering a value to the world, continue to be profitable and grow so they can keep adding that value at a greater scale. So I'm excited to chat with you about some marketing strategies that could possibly help your personal brand, your charitable organizations, your companies grow and succeed.
And thank you for being open to discuss that, because I know people don't realize just how much we need marketing and how much we're even marketed to. We do think about it in the sense of corporations, but we never think about it in every other pocket of our life, like nonprofits, like your own business. And just as a matter of fact, we're all marketing ourselves to each other, whether we know it or not. So how did you get interested in marketing? I know that's not one of the questions that's on my list, but
no, sure. Yeah, well, it goes back to that key point of where I was saying trying to make a positive impact through something. And for me, initially, I was pursuing the film industry, and I did marketing in the film industry, and we produced 7 movies, some of them with social causes and impacts, but then there was marketing behind it and everything. But what I had thought was, if Disney gets and so many different families' lives and children's lives, and what that subconsciously puts into the minds of America, but across the world, how that influences the world and different things. So what I wanted to do was go and put, a positive, just make sure there's any content I was creating had a good message, a positive spin on it, and that kind of thing. And that's, but as pursuing the film industry, luckily I was able to live out what I wanted to do at one point in time. But I took marketing jobs along the way to help pay the bills, and that built up some experience. And then through that experience, I was able to later branch off and do what I mentioned, which was now create that positive impact through helping companies grow and profit so they keep adding their value to the world.
So as we begin to discuss like aggregate marketing, residual demand, precise pricing, explain to the audience exactly what those are, because most of us are consuming the marketing. So all we know is, oh, there's this new gadget, we need to get that, or oh, we can't get that anymore. So help us understand what some of those terms are as we discuss them.
Yeah, so aggregate versus residual demand. I'll just say like aggregate demand encompasses the total market, and it means like the residual demand is what is left over that's not being filled by competitors. So we all may rush to buy something online from Amazon, but then what other vendors, what people, what type of demand is there to not purchase from Amazon, but then also who's fulfilling that demand? Or it could be like a perfect example was there was a study from 2002 with eBay, and everybody was ending their auctions between 5 to 9 p.m. because most buyers would go online and put in their bids between 5 to 9 p.m. But all the sellers also rushed to close their auctions between 5 to 9 p.m. So actually, there was the greatest aggregate demand between 5 to 9 p.m. of buyers, but there were so many sellers coming in that there was actually a negative residual demand, and you could have went to a different time period and had a better chance to sell your end your auction and sell it for a higher price. So this comes into play on both sides of the market. You could be a consumer, not always having to chase the most shiny, the most demanded object that, and you can look for the maybe the brand or the item that is a little less desired by the general public, and possibly get a really good deal. Or as businesses, you may not want to always just go to the most competitive market, or where everybody's at, because if you go to the most competitive market, it will also, the market will possibly drive down your profits and things. So,
and that aggregate market even includes government spending too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, yeah, I mean, what specifically, maybe like what do you have in mind with that?
So the government is all, they have these contracts to get all of this stuff done. So they're spending our money to get things done. And so they're also looking for, I guess, people to fulfill those contracts also. So they do a lot of marketing outwards too, kind of like an Amazon, not like an Amazon, but sort of, because they post their contracts, they post what they're looking for, and they're actually waiting for people to submit bids so they can decide who they're going to award to.
Sure. Well, yeah, exactly. And so understanding the aggregate versus what's not being fulfilled now, it helps businesses or organizations tailor their marketing efforts to be more precise and really optimize pricing, understand what those unmet consumer needs. Why would there be a residual not being filled now? There could be an interest for something, but people are not filling. They're not getting those needs met. So if you can identify those needs that are not being met by any of the existing, let's say in that example on the government, any of the existing vendors or contractors that are reaching out to who are taking the government bids, maybe there's something that you could add that's a little different than everybody else, and capture a need that's not being met.
So in the aggregate world, then how would one know what's not being met?
Yeah,
that's probably the real hard part. How do you know?
Yeah, I mean, data is becoming more and more available, and you can scrape the web, scrape different things for a variety of data points. And then, we're talking about AI and merging technology with it. You can run a lot more. If you're thinking of AI almost as like the calculator of sorts, you don't have to to put together all the insights yourself with the data and analytics, but you can possibly work with AI to make predictive models that are going to better help you identify where the gaps are in the market. So, I mean, that's one way. Also, I guess, you know, you can try, you can test and see. So if everybody is selling at like that certain time, or you know, like another example is I live in San Diego. The job market in LA, there's more jobs in LA than there are in San Diego. However, there's also a lot more talent that comes into LA than there is in San Diego. So as a result, it could be easier to find a better job in San Diego because so I guess where I'm going with this is, if you find yourself in a competitive situation, look and see where maybe others are not putting all their attention on, and see if explore that opportunity.
Okay, so for a company, you really need to know who your competitors are and where they're showing up. Like in Amazon, everyone knows Amazon is there, but
Sure.
Maybe there's that XYZ company that sells some of the same stuff, but they're not as big as Amazon, so it may be a little cheaper for you to get the same thing, as you said. So that's pretty cool for large businesses to be able to figure that part out. How would a small business handle that? Because they wouldn't have the staffing or just the bandwidth in order to have people constantly looking for what in the stock world we'd call an arbitrage opportunity, where there's that 1 minute that you can buy something and make a lot of money and sell it.
Sure. So I think in general, you're going to have to, if you're a smaller company, you're going to have to add a value on top of what the larger players are providing. So whether that be increased personalization or increased customer support, a more one-on-one, you treat your customer like they're a big fish in a small pond than the small fish in the big pond if they go to the large company. So you may have to, I mean, this goes in a lot of ways where sometimes the smaller organization, going back, let's say, to the job market, maybe a small company, to attract the same talent as Amazon or Google or Facebook, whatnot, they may have to possibly offer a higher income or higher wage than what the competition there, and the shininess of working at that company may actually pay less and be able to attract the best talent. But at a smaller company, you may have to pay more, and you could still attract the same talent of sorts. So you're going to have to just find what is, I mean, you got to keep your ear to the ground, or put out surveys, you got to interview, qualitative research of communicating with people as well, and just understanding what would make somebody engage with something different than what they're currently engaging with.
Okay. So you're looking at the added value that you bring to the table, and okay, so I'm working this out through my mind. So what are so I can look at the fact that, I could have better skills, or we can offer better customer service, things like that. We could offer different things like different warranties, or because some companies do that. They'll have a better warranty on something than someone else has. Instead of like I think with Amazon, you can return something anytime you want to. With some people, it's 30 days. So that could be an added value too, that would help your company grow.
Absolutely. Loyalty programs.
Okay.
I mean, if you think, and this is kind of what I mean, what we're talking about, like, why would you go to Staples instead of if you're ordering a binder, why would you go to Staples versus order it on Amazon as a consumer? And I don't know necessarily what Staples is offering or is not offering. That may be a different experience beyond you get to go put your hand. There's a value. You get to go put your hand. You get to see it. You get to touch it. You get to see what size it is. That's a value that goes beyond ordering online. But the point is that if you can identify why someone does not, like, maybe the most demand is going to Amazon, but you find out why people are not, what they don't like about that experience. And then what can you do to make, to fulfill one of those gaps that are not being fulfilled by whoever the bigger player is. Yeah, I'd say that would be a goal.
So in trying to find out what people don't like about it, the experience, I know besides searching the internet, is that something that maybe you could get AI to help you with? Would that be some information that AI has gathered? Because a lot of the smaller companies just don't know how to approach that, like what's different about them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely you can use AI to generate your brand positioning, your messaging. Okay. I help identify if, you know, I don't know where your audience is with like their daily use of ChatGPT or Copilot or these various AI large language models. But if you're going in, I mean, you got to think of them as you got to think of them as being an assistant or a guide, but not being the end all be all. So you may ask them a question and you may dig in deeper and keep having a communication with them. And the questions you ask are going to determine the answers you get. So you need to be asking and prompting the right way. But as long as you keep digging in, it doesn't mean what that AI tells you is what you for sure should go do. But what it does mean is that it's a good another person to bounce ideas off of, certainly. Mm-hmm. And you may find some type of insight in that, or it may at least spark something in your brainstorming process to see something at a different angle that you weren't viewing before.
Now, I noticed that you are really big on responsible marketing. So what is responsible marketing? Especially since we talked about AI and all the other ways, and you can just imagine, I'm in my mind imagining people making claims that they can't back up. So talk to us about responsible marketing and why it's important.
Yeah, well, responsible marketing, I mean, there's a few different aspects of responsible marketing. So one is kind of it could be the general non-debatable things that you could do good, donate, charity, you know, these type of works. And in those cases, sometimes what that can do is, number one, it makes your customers feel good about supporting a company that supports their community. Number two, it could make your employees feel good about the work they're doing and make it more meaningful to your employees, because while they're going about their daily work tasks, they also by helping raise X funds or contribute X to the community, then they're going to it may align with their personal values and their personal desires and make it more meaningful. So there's that aspect. There's the other aspect of making things, I guess, green, environmentally friendly, these type of things. Mm-hmm. And that's just a sustainable type of marketing, right? I guess integrated in with your products and the way you package everything and the way you send it out. I mean, thinking about all that kind of thing can make an impact, and making sure your consumers know that whatever you're doing, like if you send an email, if it's paperless and it's not coming by mail, then, for example, explaining the purpose behind that. So it doesn't just seem like it's a lack of customer service, but it's rather by you doing this, it's enabling that. And you were going to ask a question. I have one more area, but were you going to?
No, go ahead. I was just thinking people don't really think about the fact of capitalizing on some of those things you just mentioned, like sending an email and letting people know that you wanted to be environmentally friendly. Most people don't think about that.
Yeah, and I mean, you see that somewhat at like if you go to a hotel and it's, hey, you got the option to have your towel washed or not have your towel washed, and if you don't, this is what you'll save, X amount of gallons. So you're kind of giving people the reason of why you're doing it. It's making them feel even better about engaging with your company. The third is more of like a socio-political type of activism, and that is a more debatable. That's not on the lines of, hey, this is charity. This where 99% of people would find that this is going to be the right thing or the wrong thing. But there is a lot of talk about that. If you first, you need to know your consumer base, understand where your base is, and be meeting their needs. And you don't want to just go from wherever your base is and society thoughts and everything to just jumping way far away from them. But you can always, if you know where your consumer base, you anticipate where they're going to be moving in beliefs and thoughts over the next 5-10 years, you can always try to stay one step ahead of them. And so they're coming towards you and the messaging and the what you're putting out instead of you chasing after them. And so that's, I guess, another way. And that's also how you avoid how you avoid upsetting consumers, but you always keep consumers in good graces by being on the right side of history, but always being just a step ahead of them.
Okay, and then they feel like that. Then they feel like they were a part of it too, because you're bringing them along with you. So, and that makes people feel good too, because they want to be a part of whatever it is they support.
That's right.
So now that the company has, they have to know who they are and who their customers are and why people support them. So what happens if they need to make a change? So for instance, we've been eating this one thing for so long and we liked it and loved it because it was good for us. And then now we find that it's not good for us. So how do companies handle that? Because they may not have known it wasn't good for us either, but we find out it's not good for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess on the food and drink and those kind of things, it's always going to be trying to create something that tastes nearly as good. And you see that with diet this or diet or maybe that's where I'm saying, like, for example, let's say if it was meat or something, and I'm a big meat eater. I'm not going against meat or anything like that, but where I'm saying is let's say for example that maybe too much of this meat is bad for you. Okay, well then maybe there's a way to not just go to plant-based, but there's a way to integrate where it's half meat, half vegetable, or there's some hybrid. I guess you're moving in increments, and that's the way, I guess, with anything in negotiation or anything. You don't want to do anything in too big of a jump at once, but you do need to keep pulling people towards better.
So have you seen in your career, your 15-year career, where people have done poorly and you're sitting there thinking, God, they should have done this instead of that? You don't have to name
names.
I
mean, I can think of big examples like the ones that have been in the news and stuff. But I'm trying to think of more small to medium sized businesses, because that's I engage with a lot of like Fortune 500 CMOs and things like that. But I generally my clientele is the small to medium sized businesses, and that's who I'm coming in and helping. And what I'll say is that you need to, I mean, it goes back to trying to not, like, let's say this, in the real estate industry, if you're a small, I'm just giving various examples of maybe different things. So like in the real estate industry, and this goes when we're talking back about Amazon and the big players versus small players too. So in the real estate industry, if you're Century 21 or Coldwell Banker or something like that, or you're just a small one-off location or a couple office location in a local city, you shouldn't be trying to chase the Compass or trying to chase the Coldwell Banker, because you'll never have those resources that large player will have, and you'll always be chasing them. But lean into what does make you unique, and in that case, it may be the fact that you don't just treat things the same across all neighborhoods. You are part of the neighborhood. You have grown up and lived in the neighborhood, and you're very familiar with the neighborhood, and you can relate at a different level, and then highlighting that real estate is a local business. It's not a nationwide or this kind of, various other businesses. So you got to find, it's not about if on the Staples versus like on the Binder exam, any of these, it's not about trying to be what you can't be. It's being true to what you can be, but then highlighting why what you can be is better and different. And offers a unique value, and I'm not saying you'll ever hit that large demand base that is like the main demand base of the industry, because the big player may have that, but you will eat around the residual, and the residual may be enough to feed your small to medium sized company.
And where I live in Chicago, I've seen a lot of the smaller to medium-sized companies use that exact strategy that you explained, especially the real estate people, is they lean in on being from the neighborhood. They lean in on knowing the neighbors and things like that. And you're right, that has really, really worked for a lot of them. But I think that what may be happening to some of the medium and small businesses is they think that we talk so much about the large companies, the Century 21s or the Amazons or the Krogers. And I think people think that they have to be that, when what you're saying is they don't have to be that, and to market what they have going for them as a small business, what they can actually do to help the communities and the people who are looking in those communities.
Yeah. Yes, that is what I'm saying. And it's also, though, there's a fine line between saying I'm just going to be who I am, and I'm not going to worry about the consumer, versus being, okay, hey, this section of the consumer base is being serviced or supported by whomever, but what about the residual piece of the consumer base that is not being totally fulfilled? Because it doesn't mean that everybody can be it doesn't mean that anything will sell. It doesn't mean that just being any way you want to be with your business means you're going to suddenly have consumers. But what it does mean is that you don't necessarily have to do what those who are chasing the larger main, the biggest amount of demand are chasing after. You can go after some of the crumbs, but in some industries, the crumbs can be huge.
So in working with some of the small businesses I've worked with on the financial end, I find that a lot of them don't know what their specialty is or what their uniqueness is. So so when you work with the companies, are there questions that they need to consider, or how do you get them to identify what those things are for them? Because that's tough for a lot of them.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of times putting yourself in the consumer's shoes again, and understanding what are they buying. It's not what you are selling.
Okay.
There's an old saying about a drill bit, like a 1/4-inch drill bit or something, and it's like consumers don't buy 1/4-inch drill bits; they buy 1/4-inch holes. So what is the problem that they're actually trying to solve? Why are they coming to you? And when you understand that and what they're looking for, it's not you just it's a two-way. It's an engaging. You got to understand. So the point of where I'm going with this is, you may find out, yeah, what are you selling? How do you envision yourself? This and that. Now you start asking questions like, yeah, but how do your consumers envision and perceive you? And why do you think your consumers perceive you this way? And starting to think possibly what is impacting them by putting yourself in, I guess, the persona of the potential customer.
Okay, so once they've done that, and sometimes people discover that they may need to make some changes. So when you make changes in who you are or who your consumers thought you were, how do you handle that? Because they may think that you're going to be a totally different organization or person, especially if you're a small business.
Yeah. Well, number one, if you're not making big jumps all at once, then you're not suddenly shocking the consumer. So it's again going back to that incrementalness. Number two, proper communication and transparency of why you're doing it. Again, that goes back to, even if you go green in some aspects or different things, explaining why. But if you need to change, explaining why you need to change, explaining, being proactive and giving heads up about the changes coming. You just don't want to shock the consumer. You want to be transparent. You want to be authentic, and you want to be, make sure they understand why, but also reassure them, especially if you're a small to medium-sized business. A lot of small to medium-sized businesses rely on the personality of a family, of individuals, of people that they've built relationships with, and this happens a lot during like acquisitions of small companies that then go into they may switch over to the larger company, and you may have to explain, like in that situation, well, why are we selling to the larger company? Well, the reason, the financials of this or that are explain to them, we want to be here. If we don't do this, whatever it is, you have to explain, but then you can also reiterate that, but I'm like, I've been the person servicing you for 20 years. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be your main point of contact, or however it is, but you just need to have proper communication and try to explain why. And as long as it's a reasonable explanation why and a reasonable consumer, then there should be some type of meeting of the minds there and understanding.
So when people are looking to that residual demand, what have you found companies to do poorly?
Yeah. I mean, it's old saying, but dump it, like putting all your eggs in one basket and stuff. You want to test on the residuals, but that doesn't mean you necessarily can leave. Like, let's say, for example, going back to that eBay example, if most of the consumers are coming in and bidding between 5 to 9 p.m., you may not want to now suddenly end all your auctions as a seller outside of 5 to 9 p.m. You might want to try a couple. So it's, test the waters. You don't have to, it's again, with everything, you don't just do a sudden big jump. It's going to be testing. But then once you see something's working, and I do this in marketing too. So a lot of times when we're coming into companies and helping set up infrastructure and small to medium-sized businesses, sometimes we'll try a campaign or a plan or a strategy, and kind of outsource it. So it'll be a lot of skeleton inside and mostly outsourced. But as you start to prove the concept and you start to you see that there is traction there, you can start to bring it more in-house, and that's going to increase your profitability. But in this case of where I'm saying going on the residual demand. If you're breaking away from where the majority of all the other competitors are playing in, and you're just going out here outside the bubble a little bit, test it a little bit. And then if it's starting to gain traction, then you can go out there. You can shift more and more of your resources there, but it's a transition. It's not a sudden on off.
So with small businesses, I'm sitting here thinking, do they have the financial wherewithal to be able to sustain the testing process? Because you may have to test 2 or 3 different things. Unlike large businesses, Coca-Cola messes up, everybody just says, oh, wow, okay, we're still buying Coca-Cola, whatever. They just apologize and we'll be okay. But how do small businesses handle that part of it? Not having enough finances. So how could you help them or help them realize, first off, sometimes they don't know when to stop. People need to know when to stop. So when do you know? How do you know when to stop?
Yeah. Well, first, I think it depends. What's your starting? Where are you starting? What's your current stage? Because if you're a business for 20 years and this has been your bread and butter here, I'm not saying to suddenly, again, just go do something else. But if you're entering a market and you're new and you're launching a business, maybe that's where it's the approaches would be different based on the stage of the business. So that's one thing. And but nevertheless, what can you do? Well, you can certainly lean into the maybe more than ever information that's available to everybody, democratized information and data that is, and I'm not saying this is easy, but taking more and more data and doing more and more research that is free or low cost to you, and trying to really make an educated decision, whereas some of the other larger companies could possibly, not that they don't also have a whole team of researchers and team of people reviewing stuff, but they may more be willing to throw a little money at it and see if that works or not. So what I'm saying is you don't necessarily have to throw the money at it at first, but you can start to explore other areas and through researching it, through having discussions and different things, and you'll know when the timing's right. Right. And you'll know when something looks very promising, and as with anything, there's a bit of risk there, but you got to understand what's the risk of doing nothing and not evolving, or the risk of just continuing to chase the big player, and you got to make a decision and determine what's right for your unique situation.
Yeah, I really like the thought of you. A lot of people, our businesses, do have to look at the risk of doing nothing, because you can't, if you're not being profitable doing what you're doing now and you don't make any change, then you won't be around to continue to do that. So I think this is for businesses, small businesses especially, because I have a large following of small businesses. Many are doing well, but with the new AI information and all of those platforms, they don't quite know how to use that to their benefit. So you're right. Just starting to have a conversation with that, figure out where you want to go, and take small steps to get there is really, really great information.
Understand your consumer now. Understand where you expect your consumer to go. Okay. Understand your competitors now. Understand where you expect your competitors to go. And is there a gap somewhere that will be unfulfilled? And then try to, fill that gap.
Fill the gap.
Yeah.
So when the companies are first starting out, I guess this is the conversation that a lot of them need to have when they're especially starting up now, because then they could be prepared to think about the residual demand and, can we be a good fit there, or do we want to play along with the other people, as they don't have to necessarily make a lot of changes right then. So when you work with companies on this, do you find resistance and then they move into the aha moment? How is the personality or the mood of the company when we are talking about this kind of thing?
Yeah. I guess
want to prepare the people for how these conversations feel so they don't give up fast.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly, there's, if you can present data, it will make, I mean, there's one of my favorite lyrics, but people lie, numbers don't. And so with data and various things is where I'm going with this, is that if you can present data, it's going to be less disputable. It's going to be more a mutual language amongst people. So I've presented plans to people in the past, like CFOs, CEOs, different things of small to medium sized companies, and sometimes I'll have the full belief, the full confidence of that person. I'll be able to go do the plan and this and that, and and then they'll see the results, and a lot of times they're happy with the results. There's other times where you come with the plan and you're very, very confident that this is the plan that is in your best interest. But no matter what you say, what you do, you can't convince somebody, because it's still their risk they're going to take. It's still their, they have to believe in it. So I guess understanding what will it take to make that person believe in that this is the right strategy, this is the right approach. I mean, I find a lot of times that, and data is not the end all be all either, because that won't convince everybody. And sometimes there's way more variables when you go out and actually put it into play and implement it, that doesn't play out how the projections or the forecasts may think. But the point is, I know you understand people's thinking in a lot of ways, and have done your own research on it and things. And I guess it's trying to just understand what will make someone believe that this is the right solution for them. And you need to come from with good intention, and good. You need to come from the right place with bringing that to them. And if they don't want to take what you're saying is in their best interest, it's their decision. It's fine. They can decide how they want to go about it. But yeah.
So what has been in your career one success that you're really proud of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we started back off with when I said how I got into the idea of even marketing in the first place was from creating content and working in movies and stuff. And I think I'm very happy of taking a small company and grew it to have produced 7 movies and all with impactful messages and meanings, and really tried to stay somewhat true to the goal of going into it and not just taking on any project. So yeah, I would say that there's been a lot of profitable conversions that I've set companies up with on their infrastructure and their departments or their plans, their approaches, their strategies to make their P&Ls either more optimized and more profitable, or establish a P&L plan, a profit and loss, I guess a revenue plan that is going to be establish them to be sustainable going into the future and achieve their results. So anytime I see that, I'm always happy.
That's fantastic. So we've got just a couple minutes left. So let people know where they can find you and contact you if they have questions that they want to ask or want to talk about working with you. Yeah,
so you can go to marketingexec.us. reach out there, or on LinkedIn, Branden Cobb, Branden, and then Cobb. Find me there, shoot me a message. Happy to have a consultation. Find out, with everything, it's like you don't just when you go to the doctor, it's not the doctor doesn't see you and you show up at the office and you get a prescription. The doctor has to see you, examine, and then create a prescription that meets the symptoms that you're facing. So same thing here, which is need to have a consultation to understand what you're experiencing, what your goals are, and then see if maybe I have a concept or a strategy that is worth trying and that you would be on board with. And if so, then we can make that happen and see if watch your business grow. So.
Well, I want to thank you for that. And for those of you who are interested and you do reach out to Branden, understand that we don't work miracles here. So it's not going to happen overnight. Like the doctor, it takes some time and you have to stick with the process so that you can actually see the success and make any changes that you need to make. So we all know that. So nothing's overnight. We're not walking on water around here. So, okay. And we're not doing any of that, but a marketing strategy is necessary for any successful business. You just won't be without it. You do not stumble upon success in a business without a marketing strategy. So for those of you who are still thinking that, you need to stop thinking that. So thank you, Branden, for spending this time with me. And as I close,
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. As I close, may this day offer you just what you need in each unfolding moment. Trust your greatness and embrace your power. I want you all to do not go gently into that good night, but find a heel worth dying for and take it. Be that person that you have been waiting for. Make today so awesome that yesterday gets jealous. And above all else, I want you to do it your way. Remember, with the right pair of shoes, you can accomplish anything. Thank you very much, Branden, for being here again. And reach out to me or Branden if you need additional information to contact Branden. And as he said, you can easily find him on LinkedIn also. You guys have a great evening. Bye now.
Life's too short to drink cheap champagne, so I decided